Welcome back. We're on Certified Examiner Training Maneuver videos. Next up, covering traffic control devices. On your score sheet, it's going to be on the lower left side, traffic control device. You see there's only 2 errors there. You're like, this is going to go quickly. But it's a big catch-all for a lot of devices, so we're going to cover them all. First up, we go through the automatic disqualifications, as we normally do. Anytime there's damage to property, you score that as an accident. Anytime there's more than 1 tire over the curb, score that as a dangerous action. Anytime you have to intervene, verbally or physically, to stop an applicant from hitting a parked car, approaching car, or an object, score as a dangerous action. Anytime the applicant drives the wrong direction of a neighborhood traffic circle or roundabout, regardless of size, score as a violation. Now you'll see a mild exception for this later on. We'll get to that momentarily. You see there's nothing else going on. They're driving on the wrong side. Scored as a violation for driving on the wrong side. So the first up is a 4-point penalty here. Danger potential. Anytime the applicant fails to comply with or take necessary precaution when indicated by a traffic control device, such as a yield sign, traffic cones, railroad signs, which of course means a regulatory sign that says you must yield to trains, traffic dividers, flashing yellow lights, bicycle lanes. This one's pretty common if you've got bicycle lanes on your route. The white fog lines, also fairly common. Roundabouts, if they exist on your route. Traffic circles. And temporary barriers put up by construction or law enforcement. So remember, do not score failure to comply for a bike lane or parking lane when part of making a turn. You score this under left turns or right turns. So in this case, they're cutting across the edge of the road to make that turn, and score that under right turns cut. Do not score this for yellow warning signs or speed bumps. So if somebody wants to go full speed over that speed bump, they're going to do that. Hopefully it's in their car and not yours. If they're ignoring a yellow warning sign, it's not something that's scored on the driving test. Now, traffic signals or roundabouts. So if the driver failed to safely slow for the intersection, or if a vision check was required due to limited visibility, score this as failure to comply. So if they're rocking through that traffic control device, up until November of 2021, you just had to take it. You're just like, oh, that's terrible. I wish I could score this somewhere, but you couldn't. Now you can score it as failure to comply under traffic control devices. There's not a vision penalty for this. You're just going to have to score it under failure to comply. Now remember that lack of visibility needs to be present. So if it's wide open, they don't really need to do a big head scan. But if there is any limitation of visibility, use your best judgment and consider scoring that. Now if the applicant strikes or drives over the curb with one wheel or drives over the curb line when driving around it, score it as FTCs. If they hit the curb, score it as a failure to comply, 4-point penalty. Now if the applicant drives 2 wheels onto the curb of the traffic circle or the roundabout, score it as a dangerous action. And anytime 2 wheels on the curb is that. But now also 2 wheels on the truck apron, the center of that roundabout or traffic circle. Score a violation if the applicant goes to the left and in front of the traffic circle going the wrong way. So if they go the wrong way, that's a violation, driving on the wrong side of the road. However, here's a mild exception. Do not score if the applicant was forced to bypass a blocked neighborhood traffic circle by going the wrong direction. So in this case, you may have to direct them to that side. They're probably going to freeze because they know they're not supposed to go on that side. Don't score it as a violation. Now, do not score applicants who fail to signal when turning at a traffic circle of any type. This is due to the variances in the type of traffic circles. Now, if you remember from the verbiage, when you tell an applicant, take the second exit, take the third exit, right? You can also say at the next corner, turn left, take the third exit, so that you clarify they're doing that. Now, it's not really technically a left turn, because when you get into a roundabout, you're not yielding to oncoming traffic, you're only yielding to people already inside the roundabout. And so in this case, a signal is not required yet. Now, Washington State has been talking about changing this for years. They haven't done it yet. For now, we don't score it. Now, you can still score a signal under lane travel when a lane change is made without a proper signal. And you probably already know, especially if you have the Washington State video on roundabouts, you're not permitted to make a lane change inside a roundabout. That's not scored on the drive test if someone does that. However, you can still score a signal if a lane change is made without a proper signal. Now remember, make sure your score matches the specifically listed definition and does not exceed it. Remember to look under the more specific section if something happens. For example, if someone's turning, you score it under left turns or right turns. For lane changes, you score it under lane travel, right? So if they're changing lanes inside a roundabout and they commit that error, you're going to score it under lane travel, which they're probably going to do because remember, you have to signal at least 100 feet before the lane change, and I haven't seen many roundabouts that are 100 feet wide that allow that. Maybe you'll see one. If there's a right-of-way issue, they're not yielding correctly, you score that under right-of-way. So if they don't yield at a roundabout, it's not scored under failure to comply, it's scored under failing to yield the right-of-way. Or if you fail to take the right-of-way when it's clearly being offered to, you score that under the 2-point right-of-way violation. We'll cover that when we get to the right-of-way video. If there's a stop sign present, score that under stop signs and flashing lights, not here, not under traffic control devices. The other penalty on traffic control device is pretty easy. If someone makes an unnecessary stop at a traffic control device, such as a yield sign, railroad crossing, school zone sign, empty pedestrian crosswalk, they come up and make a complete stop and it wasn't necessary, you score the STP. This one is fairly common because folk get confused by yield sign. They think they have to make a complete stop. And you don't. You're only required to yield. At a stop sign, you're required to stop completely and then yield as required. But at a yield sign, you're just required to yield to everyone. Next up, we'll cover stop signs and flashing lights on the next video. Join me then.